Do you need to hire a property manager for your commercial real estate? Watch this video for 5 tips on what to ask when you're interviewing a property management company. Ron from Ron Rode Law, and we're a commercial real estate law firm that helps people hire the right team to maximize your investment on your commercial real estate deal. And in this video, I'm going to walk through the #1 mistake owners make, as well as 5 tips of questions to ask a property manager when you're interviewing them to manage your property. Now, this could be an industrial multi-tenant property, it can be an office, it can be retail. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what the asset type is. You want to get a feeling for the property manager's experience and as well as their responsiveness and communication, because those are all more important than any particular experience. All right, so before we dive in, smash that like button. It's free, it's good for the algorithm. Subscribe if you want to learn how to invest in commercial real estate, and let's get started. So the first thing that you need to understand is the scope of work. I think that it is incredibly difficult to understand everything that a property manager does if you as an investor or an owner haven't actually done those things yourself. And what I mean is, let's say you're planning on doing leasing. And if you have in their scope of work just lease tenants, if your expectation is that they're just going to sit back passively, let leads come in, people are going to call them, only inbound warm leads, that is a very different level of work, and as a result, a different level of cost and service versus if you have a property management company that is going to have a website. Are they going to maintain Google? Are they going to have outbound efforts to other people? Do they have events? Do they network with tenant rep brokers to bring tenants in? Those are 2 very different levels of effort, and they're going to produce different results based on your needs. If you have a Class C building with lots of turnover, or if you have high vacancies, versus if you have an established building with only a few tenants and you don't expect a lot of turnover, the scope of work is really important. So that's really step #1. What is your scope of work, and can you understand the need for what they're doing or not? Maybe you don't need that. Secondly, ask what their standard operating procedures are on a monthly, on a weekly, on an annual basis. You want to know what the types of reports, what type of building or property inspections do they perform, because this really will give you insight into what they're looking for to be a proactive property manager. How many times do they go on site? Are they going inside the building? Are they going on the roof? Are they walking the perimeter? Are they driving the perimeter? What is exactly in their scope of work for their SOPs in terms of their visits and their reporting? You really want to know what they're going to do, and does it correspond with what you would do as an owner if you were managing it yourself? In addition, you've got to talk about fees. And fees are a very tricky area in the sense of the incentives and the alignment of interest on fees. Because I review a lot of property management agreements, and there are situations that I don't think necessarily are in the owner's best interest. So for example, late fees being passed to the property management company instead of the owner, or vice versa. I don't really have an opinion about which is correct, but it's important to understand what the incentive is. So for example, if the tenant is late on rent and there's a late fee, who does that fee go to? Does it go to the property manager, who has to do more work to account for an extra entry, maybe calculate interest, maybe send a demand letter? What is the incentive? Who has to do more work? Or should it go directly to the owner? Does it pass directly to the bottom line and the property manager maybe does more work and they don't receive anything? I don't really know what's the best outcome for you, but the fact is you should think about what the fees are, who is collecting them, because there's definitely some situations where the property manager needs to be compensated for doing more work as a result of the actions of the tenant. In those situations, you should appropriately compensate the property manager for that situation. #3, talk to the property manager, ask them about who their ideal client is. And again, I love this question. I put it in all of my how to hire vendors, how to hire lenders and brokers and lawyers. You need to get from this property manager who is not an ideal client. And maybe that's an end around, but it's a very honest discussion to see if you as an investor and your goals and your properties are a good fit for this property manager. And I say that because there are a lot of systems and efficiencies and network effects and even costs that are not appropriate for different investors in different property. Now, you can use the example again between Class C and Class B or Class A, that's fine. But even within that, there's still a lot of variance because the size of the property and the mindset of the owner is very different. Some people are perfectly willing to spend an extra $5,000 or $10,000 a month if it means no hassle, don't bug me, hire a turnkey GC and I'm fine, fix the problem. Whereas some owners say, well, even this is Class C, I still don't want to pay a lot, but I want to be involved in the process. I want to understand what the damage was. I want to understand the photos. And they don't want to pay $10,000 for convenience if the property manager could have informed them and let the owner make certain decisions to help out the property manager. So that's a great question of who is your ideal client and who is not your ideal client, because you want to listen to those answers, because no one property manager can be everything to everyone. Everybody has a specialty and they should be set up to niche for that type of property. Finally, I think the last question is a little bit more open-ended, but I really ask them, what is the worst case scenario? What makes a good property from your perspective? And, can you point to an example? I think the different thing about property management is that it's a little bit interesting in that people, if you're interviewing a company, you can go look at an example and you have a physical plan. There's something you can touch. You don't even need to interview their clients. You don't need to interview the tenants, but you kind of can go shop that if you want. But you can go and you can look, even if it's just on Google Maps, look at the condition and the quality of the other buildings or the other facilities that they manage. Is it clean? Is it modern? Is it up to date? Are the signs in good shape? Does the center look occupied? Asking for actual references of things that they currently manage will give you a really good insight into how they're going to treat your property. I think it's the best predictor of what your property is going to look like after 12 months with these guys, with Property Management Company XYZ. So that's it for this video on how to hire a property manager. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're interested in commercial real estate content, and we'll see you next time.